Hey guys, today I have a special treat for you. I get to sit down with the man that I'll be shadowing to get my certification as a Great Game of Business coach. He has been a certified Great Game of Business coach for the past 20 years, just under 20 years. He has a ton of business experience. He is a member of the UIC Chicago Area Entrepreneurial Hall of Fame. His companies that he works with see tremendous growth. He has a ton of stories. He's from the Chicago area. He's the youngest of 11 brothers and sisters. Just a great guy, and we have a great discussion. So with that, let's go right into it. So Kevin, just looking at some of your history, very impressive stuff. I don't know if you know this, but I came from the food industry as well.
Wow.
I was in business with my family for a long time and decided to leave back in 2013 for good. Just, wasn't for me, I guess.
Kringus, are you Greek?
Yep.
Yeah, I understand.
And you're from Chicago, right?
Yep.
Big Greek town there.
Yes, sir.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, like what brought you to the Great Game and just about your past. I know that you were with Tasty Catering and the awards are, pretty amazing, what you've been able to do. But tell me about what brought you here today.
Well, we started out as three brothers in the food service industry back in the 70s. My brother had two partners that he parted ways with. Three brothers that were in the business, myself, a middle brother, and my oldest brother, branched out on our own in '84 with our own restaurant. I grew that to three. Started catering almost by accident in 1989 when a customer asked for some food to serve at a party at their house. We just happened to stumble upon a ripe and open market, so we jumped into it both feet. By 2005, we sold our last restaurant in our old catering facility and moved into one that was 6 times the size. So pretty tremendous growth from 1999, 2000 to 2005, 6. In 2006, I think it was, we offered two 20-somethings that really, quote unquote, got it. Basically job offers for life with some equity built in. And they surprised us when they came back and said, no, we're leaving unless the culture changes. This command and control stuff doesn't work anymore.
Wow.
We've got to have an employee built and an employee-based culture. You three have to follow it better than anybody, or it means nothing. It's just writing on a wall. Because if you can do that, then you can hold others accountable to the culture. If you can do that, we'll stay. So we had some soul searching to do, look ourselves in the mirror and say, can we shove our egos to the curb? Now, we're from a family of 11. I'm the youngest. I'm the last official year of the baby boomers. So we grew up in a household, a 3-bedroom and a converted den in the city. And my father was a World War II Army Air Corps staff sergeant, and my mom sure did outrank him. So that's what we knew was command and control. You did what you were told. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. Right.
Yep.
So we really had to change. And at the time, I was just over 40. My oldest brother was almost 60. So thank God we did it. That's when the awards started to come, when we instilled that culture. 2011, we found out about the Great Game of Business in an interesting way. My brother met Jack Stack at a Small Giants. I don't know if you've heard of them. Small Giants retreat in Constance, Germany, of all places.
Wow.
And
yeah, I have heard of that. That was from Vern Harnish, I think, back in the day, right?
Bo Burlingham, I think, was
that's his other author. Yep.
Yeah. So my brother read the book after he debated with Jack about open book management and how to do it, because we'd opened our books since the 80s in our restaurants and had a bonus system tied to it.
Oh, you did?
But it was open book reporting. It was the 10th or 15th of the month looking back at the previous month. It wasn't forecasting. It wasn't looking ahead. So he came back, read the book, sent our CFO down for training, kicking and screaming because the CFO said we could do this ourselves. We don't need to go down for training. CFO went down for training to Springfield in August, booked 4 more of his seats to go down in September because he saw the value in it. We went down for training, built our game in my car on the way back, 4 of us. So we developed a scoreboard. We figured out some mini game targets, came back, started mini games that fourth quarter of 2011. launched the big game in January of 2012. It really spoke to me and resonated with me because I was human resources and purchasing, people and numbers. So I became a coach in late 2012.
So immediately after starting at
Yeah.
the company, at the Tasty Catering.
Yep, we ran into some stagnation with our game as we developed it and put it in place. Basically, it was still the design team's game after 8 months. We hadn't transferred ownership of the game to our people. So my brother said to me in August, I don't know what's going on, but people aren't engaged anymore. It's not like it was the first 3, 4, 5 months. I don't know what it is, but you got to figure it out. So I went back down for more training, now armed with experience of playing the game. Came back, did a few tweaks and changes, and it worked. And I'm like, wow, I could do this.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'd led our green initiative or our eco-friendly initiatives. And my brother was kind of pushing me because he was doing consulting and coaching and leadership and culture. He was kind of pushing me to do something outside the company, like getting involved in that industry. And it just wasn't me. So when this came along and there was an opportunity, I thought, this I could do. This I could have a passion for. This would be awesome. It was I became a coach kind of as deflection, trying to get away from becoming a eco-friendly type consultant person.
I see.
You know, I don't wear hemp clothes. This to me seemed more rewarding.
Yeah, we have a very similar story. I implemented the Great Game a year ago, maybe 13 months ago, at our agency, our marketing agency, and then became a coach shortly after, maybe 6 months later, just because I have a passion for it. I see the value in it. I grew up just like you. My dad and my mom, command and control. My dad ran the restaurant as if like he made every single decision, and it was the most frustrating thing ever. So as soon as I can get away from that, I did, both physically and philosophically. The way to run a business is not that way. I don't know if it ever was, but it's not that way now. That's for sure.
It worked in the 70s and 80s, 90s, but not in the 2000s.
Right. So then how soon after that did you start taking on clients?
Oh, right away. My first client, I think, was like March of that'd be 2013. I shadowed a former coach. I shadowed him, this November, December, that time frame. And then March, I started doing speaking at chambers of commerce's, associations, and anywhere that they'd take me, just to hone my skills or craft at it, because I was an introvert.
Yeah.
But you can't be in this role. So I had to get comfortable with the material, comfortable with the knowledge. I had the passion, that was never a question, but just how do I express that the best? So I did a bunch of speaking things, even went on the road on my own dime to go speak at national conferences and stuff.
Oh, that's very cool.
So that gave me comfortability with the material, comfortability with the processes. So that first year, that was client number one. And I think there was a couple more that year, but it really didn't get quote unquote full time for about 3 years.
Gotcha.
Like you, I separated from the company in June 2021 from all of our companies.
Oh, you did.
With the Great Game and with the culture, we kind of had an entrepreneurial hotbed where 4 other companies sprang up. Employee ideas, we funded them, they ran them. So there's a family of 5 companies. I separated from all those in June 2021. I'd been working pretty much full time as a coach since 2014, 15. And they replaced me with somebody younger, smarter, and cheaper in the business because they knew if they got my salary off the labor line, then they'd get more money. In gain share. In fact, by 2018, they moved myself and my 2 brothers into an office next door, completely removing us from the operations because they'd replaced my brothers as well. And the company had its most profitable years in 2018 and 2019.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a shock to somebody's ego sometimes.
Yeah, but when they're making you money, it's not that bad. Double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. So that's a similar story to SRC, where they spun off into other companies. I mean, just on a smaller scale, I guess, but very similar story.
Yep.
Kind of what I'm hoping will happen in the agency, where people step up and become more entrepreneurial minded and create different businesses and different ideas.
Yep.
That's awesome. So just about the game itself, let's start with, so the obvious, you've already mentioned it a little bit, but why the Great Game? What are like the top 1 to 3 reasons for that over other operating systems?
Why it's the only one I know of that gets out to the front lines where the most change can happen. It gets out to the frontline people who, may not have a super high paying job or this, and teaches ownership thinking, how your actions, attitudes, and behaviors impact not only your future, but the company's. It's really those frontline people that I hold near and dear to my heart. I try to have one on every design team because what they see from their lens could be different than the leadership teams. In fact, it is different. So number one reason why is it impacts the frontline more than anything else I've seen.
That's fantastic.
All right. Second reason, like the tagline with the great game, it's the only sensible way to run a business. I just recently launched with a company in Alaska. They had 6 locations. We did 3 different launches in 3 different cities in 3 days. And the owner said it best, I think. He said, there's a lot of quarters that have fallen into our couch. We got to turn this couch over and shake them out. And I thought that was a brilliant analogy. And who can control those quarters the best?
The people sitting on the couch.
That's right. And their mechanics have to write down their equipment dealer, repair, parts, service. The mechanics would have to write down what they used, and it gets billed to the customer. Well, is it worth it to write down a $3 can of brake cleaner, or I forget, not brake fluid, brake cleaner? It's not worth the time. Well, at a 2% margin, which is what they were running, 2% bottom line, revenue replacement for giving away a $3 can of brake cleaner is 3 times 50, right? Because 2% is 1/50th of 100. They got to do $150 worth of more work just to pay for that can of brake cleaner.
Right.
When we use that example at the launches, their mouths just drop like, oh my goodness. The next morning, oh, that was a different launch. Sorry, I get my stories crossed.
No, that's okay. But I had a similar experience. It's a really powerful exercise once they see what
revenue replacement
is really worth to replace it in revenue. We were running at 10% profit at the time. And I remember I think their jaws were wide open. Like, no, they can't be true. And I had to, a couple times doing the exercise. And now anytime somebody comes up with savings, we turn it into how much money that would cost to replace it.
Yeah. And the third reason, it's the easiest way to run a company. Look at us. We started in late 2011, early 2012. And by 2016, I was out of the business and working next door. And by 2018, my other 2 brothers were out. And the company was more profitable than ever by letting the people run it. It's the easiest way to run a company.
Yeah, I think that's what people dream of.
Yes.
And it's probably the only way to get there truly, where you don't have to worry about it.
Yep. Put it in the employees' hands, right? Harness the wisdom of the crowd. 75, 80 employees were much more brilliant than 3 owners.
That's a very good point.